Welcome back to the channel, folks. I'm talking about annuities. I'm talking about the fees, the charges, the commissions that are paid out. How does it really work? Because a lot of people, they don't talk about it. They talk about how great annuities are, how you could get lifetime income, how you can have tax advantage growth. All these things are fine. They're perfect and they are 100% true. But no one really breaks down the backside, the cons, what it really is, how it works. So if you're thinking about annuities, fixed index annuities, regular fixed annuities, variable annuities, whatever you're looking for, you want to know the other side of everything. Stick around. You're here with Earl, the money coach. Make sure you guys like, follow, and subscribe. But let's get right into it, starting with number one, the compensation. You hear about this a lot. Oh, a lot of people are selling annuities because they get compensated so much money, they make so much, which is true. They do get a good compensation. But let's break it down. Coming from someone that's been licensed for the last decade, I have done annuities. I'm gonna break down how it works. So when you have compensation or the commission on the back end for the agents, generally speaking, there's a two-part breakdown. You have a percentage amount where the companies will pay a percentage, say it's 5%, 6%, 7% of whatever you're rolling over. And then the agent, if they're independent or if they're through a brokerage, they generally have a contract. You've seen people have from 30%. There are agents that could get 125%, sometimes more. I use myself as an example. I get 60% paid out commissions when I do annuity on the percentage. So let me give you a scenario. You have $100,000. Your whole $100,000 is going to go into whatever strategy you have with whatever company. I'm not going to name companies. There's hundreds of companies out there you could do annuities. But you have 100,000 goes into annuities. The percentage, like I said, generally is 5%, 6%, or 7%. The company pays out on the back end towards the broker. So everything could be good to go. So your 100,000, let's just use 6%. $100,000 goes in, 6% is $6,000. So that percentage is what they have. And then depending on the agent, the agency, the broker, they have a contract. My contract is 60%. So I will get 60% of that 6%, $6,000, which is $3,600. So if I were to help you right now roll over $100,000 401k into an annuity, and that company pays out 6% to the field at my contract level that the brokerage will pay me, I'm making $3,600 one time right up front. Now, people say that's a lot compared to financial advisors, and the different ways, different things. You hear something like fiduciary charges or financial advisor fees or basis points inside your 401k, all these different things. I'm gonna keep it simple. Let's just say 1%. You have a financial advisor, you got a 401k, mutual funds, some kind of brokerage account. They get paid to actively manage your money. Okay, so they're gonna have an advisory fee. Say that's 1%. So if you have your $100,000 inside that 401k, inside that mutual fund, that advisor is getting a 1% advisory fee for managing everything. That's $1,000. So that year, that advisor is making $1,000. Here's the thing, most people just don't have something for a year. You have enough financial advisor, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road. Let's just say 10 years. Let's say your strategy sucks. You got $100,000. 10 years from now, it's still at 100,000. That financial advisor who has that fiduciary or basis points, the advisory fees, they just made what? 1%, $1,000 a year. So over 10 years, guess what? That's $10,000 out of your account that was taken for actively managing and advising your fee. But let's say it goes up 10%. Let's keep it simple. In 10 years, it goes up 10%. Let's say every year, you have 200,000. So the first year, you start at 100,000. The next year, you got 110,000. The year after that, 120,000, so on and so forth till you get to 200,000. So if you started at 100,000, got up to 200,000, they're charging that 1% going up like that over 10 years. That's $16,500 in financial advisory fees going towards that alone. There are other fees inside, whatever you have, your 401ks, your mutual funds, your annuities. I'm going to break those down. There are other fees. Some of you may have heard of Tony Robbins. And he said some 401ks, just from fees, not penalties or taxes, people could lose 1/3 of their 401k just the fees. So it can be something that's huge. So Financial advisors, they're getting maybe 1%. Some do more, some do less. I've seen 0.5 and a half a percent. I've seen 1.5%. They're doing that for 15, 20, 30 years. They're getting compensated that advisory fee for actively managing. Annuities, those who sell annuities, they're going to have that commission up front, and they're going to get, in my case, I get $3,600 one time. Boom, that's it. So I wanted to cover that because that's what a lot of people want to know. But let's talk some of the other fees. A huge thing, and things, not just fees, things to know about annuities. Number one is their surrender charge. People don't talk about surrender charges. Simply put, let's do the same example throughout the video. You have $100,000. You say, hey, Earl, in 5 months, I don't want this no more. I think it's crap. Get me out of it. You're going to have a surrender charge. And it's going to be, say, anywhere from 7% to 14, 15%. I'll keep it basic. It pretty much has a decreasing staggered amount. Meaning what? If you have annuities, so you guys know they're by contracts, which are by years. You got a 5-year annuity, 7-year annuity, 10-year, 14-year. Let's just say 10-year. Keep the same thing that we've been talking about. 10 years for an annuity, your surrender charge the first year will be 10%. You have 100,000 in, you're gonna lose 10%. You walk away with 90,000. You see what I'm saying? First year will be 10%. Second year will be 9%. Third year will be 8%. And every year that surrender charge keeps going down. So you have to understand that. So that could be a huge factor. The biggest I've personally seen, I've heard of more, what I've seen is 18%. I had a client who had $370,000. Guess what? They put that money in and they had an 18%. So if they canceled that money in that first year, they would have lost 18% of 370,000. That's how surrender charges work. Okay. So you need to understand that. You also need to understand when it comes to qualified and non-qualified. That means, is your annuity, is it qualified to be taxed or is it non-qualified to be taxed, depending on how the money came in. If you have a 401k, guess what? 401ks haven't been taxed before. So that's what you call a qualified account. It's qualified to be taxed on the whole thing. Your whole 100,000, they're going to tax you on the whole 100,000 on the principal. Now everything else gets to grow tax free. That 100,000 turns to 400,000, you're good to go. But that initial you're going to be taxed on. Now if it's non-qualified, say you have a Roth 401k or money coming from a bank or something like that, something that's already been taxed, it's been pre-taxed, that money is going in. That's called non-qualified, meaning that it's not qualified to be taxed. Okay, but remember, when you have these kind of strategies, you have different things you got to understand. Principals tax, if you have tax advantage accounts, you have variable annuities where they're actually in the market, so you can have market volatility. All these kind of things you need to understand. So that's, I talked about compensation, I talked about surrender charges. Now let's talk about how much can you really get inside annuities. It all depends. Some of them are fixed annuities. They're going to say, hey folks, you're going to get 5% every single year. The market goes up 30, you get 5. The market goes down 2, you get 5. Whatever it is, you're locked in at 5. You have your index annuities, and a lot of your index annuities, they give you a participation of the market. They're not in the market, they're a reflection of the market. So you could have a floor. So the floor could be 0, which most of them are. 0 is your hero, you're not losing anything. But then some of them will have, say, 8%, 6%, 7%, meaning the market goes up 15%. You have 7 as a cap, they call it a cap. You have a floor and a cap. If 7 is your cap, that's what you're going to get. So you need to understand these things, okay? Now, you still have within your annuities, you have investment management fees. You got to understand how the market's going to be looking inside your annuity. Okay, you're going to have, I'm looking at some of these over here, your mortality and expense fees, the M&E fees. So you have a lot of different things which could add up anywhere between 1 to 3%, depending on how your annuities are structured. That's huge. So you have to understand how these things work because there's still different accounts. There are contractual agreements that they have to be managed because they have stuff inside insurances. Because remember, at the end of the day, annuities is just pretty much another kind of insurance. So you have insurance and insurance properties, even though it's reflecting the market, your variable annuities are invested in the market. It's pretty much still an insurance contractual agreement. Okay, which is what allows you to have it in and allow you to do a lot of things with everything. Now, a big thing, and I'll end with this. There's a lot more, but I'm gonna end with some of the big ones. We're talking about income. Because you always hear annuities give you lifetime income. It's creating your own personalized social security, things of that nature. Well, annuities, they have riders, and your riders normally come with a fee. And the rider could be if you want to have immediate income, if you want to have some kind of multiplier, a doubler, if you want to add long-term care. A lot of these riders come into effect that you do have to purchase. And when I say purchase, it'll be a certain amount or a certain percentage point. So, hey, you want this immediate income rider, it may be a 1%. So the market gives you 13%, minus that 1%, they'll credit you 12%. Or you may have some bonuses. Some bonuses may have a 0.5% up to 1% bonus. Two of my favorite companies I work with, one gives a 23% bonus, another one gives a 27% bonus. I just had a client, she had $300,000 put into her annuity. Day one, she started with 481,000 towards her principal. But guess what? There's a 1% rider to have that attached to it. So there's certain kind of things you need to understand how they're structured, but ultimately, the main thing is the timing, folks. Annuities are contracts. You can have 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 14 years, different kind of contracts, which means since it's a contractual agreement, you cannot touch that money until the contract has been fulfilled. If you have a 7-year annuity, you cannot touch that annuity for 7 years. Now, some of them will have where you could touch a certain amount, meaning we'll let you touch, say, 7%. Some companies do 10% every single year. So you put $100,000 into, let's say, a 10-year annuity, you may be able to take out 10% every year penalty free. So that way you still have access to your funds. But that whole 100,000, you cannot reach that all at one time because you have to fulfill a contract. So when you get annuities, understand, hey, I'm putting this in for X amount of time and I'm going to just let it sit there and ride out if I'm going to have it for growth or if I'm going to do something where it has an income to it. So, folks, these are probably the 5 big things I want to talk about. There's way more things inside your annuities. There's way more different kind of understanding the market value adjustments, understanding how they're getting their numbers. If they're off the S&P, if they're off different kind of different places there that you could get from the Nasdaq, or you have the Dow Euro. You have different kind of stuff you could use to invest. You have your annuity fees, your administration fees. You have your withdrawal penalties because annuities are just kind of like 401ks. If you try to touch it before 59 and a half, so say you're 30, you have a 10-year annuity till you're 40, it's supposed to be until 59 and a half. You touch it early, guess what? You're still going to have to worry about that. So, folks, learn everything, learn all the cons in any strategy. There's pros, there's going to be cons, but understand how they work, use them to your advantage. I covered the surrender charges, I covered the participation rates, I covered some of the fees, I covered pretty much how people get surrender charges, all different kind of things. You really need to fix and understand when I say fix yourself understanding that it's not just all fine, handy dandy. Okay, just like your stocks, just like your crypto, just like your real estate, just like your insurances, just like REITs, just like a business, there's going to be pros, folks. There's going to be cons. If anyone's telling you annuities are the best thing out there, it's perfect. It's not the best thing out there. For some people, it may be. For others, it's not. It's supposed to be used as a supplemental income. Most annuities, unless you're, I have clients who put a ton of money in, they have 15, 20 years. So by the time they retire, they could take out 70, 80,000 a year. You could do that. But for most folks, they're rolling over a 401k, they have money in their bank account, they're setting up an annuity, you're using it as supplemental income. Once I hit retirement, I could take out $2,000, $3,000 every single month for the rest of my life, never run out of money, give the rest to my beneficiaries, and have everything there. So, with that being said, ladies and gents, just here to drop a few cents. You're with Earl, the Money Coach. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. Check the other videos about annuities. And make sure if you want to have these, if you want to learn or have quotes on annuities, see how they work, go to the description. You'll actually be able to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me and see if there could be a great fit. And I'll see you on the next video.